Greetings, pet lovers. Bridget here with First Street Pets, and today we're going to talk about a controversial subject. Should I let my cats outside? Throughout history, cats have lived alongside mankind just like dogs, only they have served a different function. Back in the day, when most people survived from farming and ranching and keeping animals like horses and cattle, rodent control was, and still is in rural areas, a huge problem. Rats and mice can cause diseases, they can destroy your crops or your stores of hay, and having some cats around to keep that population under control can be very valuable. What we're going to talk about today is it still possible and feasible for cats to continue to live outside in that way? The world is heavily congested now with development, with traffic, and many other hazards outside. The human population has increased sevenfold in 200 years. Inevitably, with all those people living closer and closer to each other, there are going to be clashes and conflicts of interest in what people think is acceptable as far as the lifestyle they live. I have even seen it in areas with horses where there is an area where there have been horse ranches forever. Development is built up around it, and all of a sudden those folks are complaining about horse manure and flies when those properties were there to begin with. So as times change, so does the environment change for cats. According to the American Pet Products Association, a trade organization from which I get a lot of my valuable statistics, there are more than 94 million owned cats in the United States. Now, obviously, no one knows for sure how many cats are really here, but this is an estimate based on the studies that they do for their vendors who sell pet products. 94 million, that's a lot of cats and a lot of people. Since cats are considered a commensal species, meaning that they live alongside people like dogs and live with us and off of our leavings, it is understandable that their population has increased with ours. So the significance of these increasing populations is, you guessed it, conflict, drama. It's what happens between people all the time. It's just human nature. We have differences of opinion and we will argue about it. Some people love cats, some people hate cats, and others are indifferent. And the interesting thing is that, as in other situations, one person's rights can infringe on the other person's rights. So one person has a right to keep cats, whether as pets or as mousers outside, and another person has a right to not have cats because they don't like them, they're causing damage to their garden, they have allergies, you name it. So everybody has their rights, but these rights can come into conflict. These conflicts can lead to a number of dangers for cats, including being outright killed. Now, I don't talk about or show anything graphic on this channel, so don't worry, I'm just mentioning that harm may come to a cat. They may be trapped and taken to an animal shelter or relocated to some other area, basically dumped somewhere. So there's a lot of hazards for your cats if they are living outside unsupervised. While some outdoor cats may fall into the hands of people who don't like them, others will fall into the hands of people who love them or who claim they do. Hoarders. In my work in animal welfare, I worked with a lot of hoarders. I'm not judging or shaming. Some of them became friends, and I did what I could to help them have a better life. In many cases, there are mental health and physical health issues that need to be addressed. But whatever the case, sometimes people will take cats into their home in excess. And by the time animal welfare gets involved, they usually have hundreds of them, and the conditions are pretty bad for everybody. In one case that made the news that I was involved in, an individual had almost 100 cats living in storage containers. He also had been living in the storage containers, but he was forced to sleep in his car when the containers became too dirty because the cats were breeding and pooping all over the place. So fortunately, we were able to help him place most of the cats. And interestingly, some of those cats had microchips and didn't belong to him. So he had found them and taken them in thinking they were abandoned. And it's not just hoarders or people with too many cats who do this. Many times people will find a cat or a dog and just keep it, assuming that it's been abandoned. You'll see in the news many cases of cats being found by owners many years later because they have a microchip. And let's say they get lost again or end up at a vet or shelter, and it turns out that they had an owner all along who was looking for them and didn't know what happened to them. So let's talk about some considerations for letting your cat outside. One of those is personality. Cats that are raised indoors all their lives, like Miss Kitty the office cat here, don't know any different. They are content to live in the house. They look out the window, they play with toys, and they don't think too much about it. Other cats, if they've formerly been outside, can be really difficult to keep in the house. They may howl, they may try to dart out the door or the window, they might spray. So those kind of cats can be a lot more of a challenge to keep solely in the house. Another consideration is where you live, country versus city. I used to live in the country. I have a lot of cats. I honestly didn't know how many I had when I lived in the country because they were out all over the farm. But now that I live in a downtown area with a lot of traffic, they're all in the house with me. Now I'm a lot more aware of how many cats I have. So I couldn't let them out here. They would be killed. There are very few outdoor cats in this neighborhood, and those few that survive are wily enough to stay near the houses and out of the street. Now, if you live in the country, of course, you may have a lot more space. It's a lot safer. There's not traffic, or if it's a dirt road, people aren't driving very fast. But you also have critters. So, your cats could be hunted as prey, especially if they're out after dark. So there are some considerations, pros and cons, depending on where you live. So with all these negative reasons for cats not to be let outside, there's got to be some positive, right? Well, of course there is. Many cats love being outside. They get exercise, they get fresh air, they get mental stimulation that they may not get sitting in the house or in an apartment. Studies have shown that indoor cats have a much higher rate of obesity and diabetes just due to lack of exercise. So you'll just have to decide if it's worth it in your situation. Like in anything else, you have to look at the risks versus the benefits. There are some alternatives which can give you and your kitties the best of both worlds. One is a catio. These are very popular now. I want to thank my friends for sending me pictures and ideas for catios that they have built. It's something that I'd like to do for my kitties at some point. And this gives your cats an outdoor space so they can play and exercise, but it's safe. They're not getting off your property. They're not causing a nuisance for other people and being in danger of being trapped or any other number of hazards. And they get to enjoy the outdoors. So I've seen a lot of pictures on Pinterest. There's a lot of really cool ideas out there. You can buy some pre-made ones or just make one yourself if you're handy, or come up with an idea and hire a handyman to make it for you. So this seems like a really good opportunity, especially if you're in a more metro area, and it's just not the best idea to let your cats roam around and possibly be hit by a car or cause problems for others. Teaching your cat to walk on a leash is another alternative. I do know some folks who do this. I've written an article about this previously, and I will do a video on it at some point, hopefully with some good footage of training and introducing the cat to walking on a leash. This can be another alternative. It's kind of the best of both worlds. Obviously, if you got a house full of cats, it's probably not going to work. You'd look like a New York City dog walker with all your cats on leashes. But if you have one or two cats or a young cat who really wants to go outside, this could be another safe alternative. I hope this has been helpful for you. Letting cats outside is a controversial subject that always generates an interesting dialogue. I invite you to comment with your opinion one way or the other. I would love to hear about your experiences, your ideas, and Miss Kitty and I are signing off now.